It's ready. Okay. Welcome elected members, staff, guests and members of the public to this special council meeting of the 29th of July 2026. I declare the meeting open at 3:59 p.m. The City of Busselton acknowledges the Wadandi and Bibbulmun people as the traditional custodians of this region, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. Thank you everyone for joining us in person today. This is a formal meeting of the City of Busselton and certain protocols apply. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded to ensure an accurate and official record. So I kindly ask that you do not record, photograph or take videos during the proceedings, as the official recording will be made available to the community. I understand that what we are discussing today may cause some fairly strong feelings. I would ask that you please respect the elected members as they debate the item before us today. I would like to commend the elected members on the number of hours that they have spent in workshops considering the annual budget. I would also like to commend our staff for the amazing job that they do in running those workshops for the elected members. The elected members go through the budget line by line. The staff model various different scenarios, and I can rest assured that elected members have read the submissions from the community and will take that into account tonight during their debate. So I just ask that you be respectful and allow the elected members to have their say. I'm sure that there will be some debate on the issue, and I would really appreciate that. We have a full attendance of elected members tonight except the Mayor. Mayor Cronin is an apology. The purpose of this meeting is to adopt the 2026-2027 City of Busselton annual budget and reaffirm the fees and charges for the 2026-2027 financial year. I have received some disclosures of interest. We have a proximity interest from Councillor Love, item 7.1. We have an impartiality interest from Councillor Ryan, item 7.1. We also have a proximity interest from Director Oliver Darby, item 7.1. These interests will be read out immediately before the item is considered. I will now open up for public question time. We have a minimum of 15 minutes and the questions must relate to the purpose of this meeting, please. I have received three applications for questions, and so I'll ask the first person, Keith Sims. Mr. Sims, if you'd like to come forward and ask your questions.
Good evening, councillors, acting mayor, CEO and everyone else. And my questions are regarding tonight's agenda. Firstly, this is not a question. Firstly, I agree that the saltwater has to be completed and return as much income as possible. So under the rate submissions, saltwater project cost overruns are driving rate increases on the agenda, page 25. The city response is 1% of the advertised increase relating to the debt is servicing and operations asset management for saltwater. The entertainment centre the community asked for was at $21 million. Then without community consultation, the convention centre increased that cost by almost $10 million to $30.3 million. That increase could have paid for the Dunsborough Pavilion and more. The project cost then become $44.5 million. Now in tonight's budget it is $73 million, less $14.3 million in grants, $30 million in loans, leaves $28.7 million out of reserves. There is no doubt that the saltwater is eating into reserves and borrowings and has deprived Sport and Rec from necessary funding. The 1% is only part of the increase that the 3% Sport and Rec is paying for saltwater shortcomings. Question: what other community projects could have been serviced by the current figure for saltwater, including the millions of dollars overruns, possibly a new leisure centre and lower rate increases?
Thank you, Mr. Sims, for the question. The council resolved to proceed with the construction of saltwater. If it had not, it would have been for the council to determine what other projects, if any, to proceed with. It is also for the council to resolve each year on its rates in the dollar.
Sorry, what was the last part?
It is also for the council to resolve each year on its rates in the dollar, so on the rating
Yep, and
for the annual budget.
I understand that, but the reasoning is 3% for sport and rec is high and saltwater is only 1%, and I gave you reasons why.
Thank you, Mr Sims.
Yeah.
Next question, please.
The same agenda. Perceptions that the community did not support the project, page 25. Question 2, what is meant by perception when the Catalyse survey had only 34% of the community wanting the saltwater? Catalyse also confirmed that their survey was accurate to 95% of community responses. The community, sorry, not responses.
Thank you, Mr Sims. The use of the word perception does not relate to the Catalyse survey. It relates to the key themes of the submissions received in relation to the advertising of the differential rate, being how they perceive support for the saltwater project in the community.
I didn't say that perception was to do with Catalyse survey. I said the statement was the perception, and I queried what is meant by the perception because the survey, etc.
Thank you, Mr Sims.
I didn't say the survey perception.
Next question, please.
Page 25, question 3. Why wouldn't the community call for greater accountability for major project decisions to be heeded by the current or any future council so a repeat of the saltwater mistakes is not possible?
I can't speak on behalf of the wider community. I'm sorry, Mr Sims, so I actually don't know the answer to that question.
You didn't answer the other ones either. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Sims. The next person I have is Jane Bennett, if you'd like to come forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking these questions on very late notice. Question 1, has the City conducted a comprehensive and evidence-based social and financial impact assessment of this proposed rates increase, including its impact on affordability for low-income households, families, pensioners, seniors and people living with disability or other special needs?
Thank you, Ms Bennett, for the question. No, we have not, and nor is there a requirement to. The Council has advertised its proposed differential rates for the 26-27 year, received submissions from the community, and the Council will consider those submissions in resolving on the final differential rates tonight.
Okay, thank you. Question 2, how confident is the presiding member in representation of the whole Council that with the City's proposed rates increase, that it will not place a significant number of residents under further financial hardship, particularly, as mentioned, those vulnerable sectors of the community? If you could please give us a response for that.
As the presiding member, I can't speak on behalf of all the other elected members. Noting the Council will be considering the adoption of its budget and the differential rates item at this meeting this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Question 3. The City has stated that rising costs justify a rates increase of more than 4.6%. Given that the Australian Government's current forecasts indicate inflation, the CPI is expected to decline further from June, which was 3.8%, over this budget period coming. How does the City justify claiming that its costs will continue to rise at a level requiring a rates increase well above the CPI?
So the City uses a range of economic indicators to guide it in its budgeting and ultimately to determine the level of rating required. It doesn't look at CPI alone. It also looks at wage price index, local government and the local government cost index. More importantly, it considers actual known cost increase that it has occurred since its last budget adoption or is likely to occur. For instance, we know that the insurance costs will rise by 9%. We know that utility costs will rise, and we also know it will provide a baseline increases to salaries and wages of at least 4.6%, plus an additional 0.25% in super. The city also knows that costs for some of its contracts have already risen. In terms of operating costs, the budget contains overall costs by nature or type that has increased from the 25-26 budget as follows. Employee costs, 7.3%, utility charges, 10.5%, insurances, as I've already mentioned, 9%. So there are a lot of things to consider when we are looking at the annual budget. And it's also interesting to note that a number of other local authorities have already approved their budgets, and they're all between 4.5%, a lot of them, not all of them, and over 6%.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Andrew Dickey, if you'd like to come forward, please.
Andrew Dickey from Busselton. It was stated in the City of Busselton's draft 2026-27 annual budget statement that to fund a further $4 million for the saltwater project that, and I quote, a further $2.4 million would be added, funded from a combination of new loan funding and part of the 2025-26 surplus. The budget includes a new loan of $1,192,311 over a term of 10 years, end quote. Reviewing the minutes of previous ordinary council meetings, I can find no mention at all of council voting on this new loan of over $1 million. My question, therefore, is, was this new loan voted on at a special council meeting held on 3rd December 2025 under item 7 on the agenda, namely Confidential Matters, Saltwater Busselton Project Update, which was held behind closed doors and from which the public was excluded?
Thank you, Dr. Dickey. No, the council will be voting at this meeting in front of everyone to include the loan as part of the 2026-27 annual budget adoption, and that is outlined in the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else in the gallery who would like to come forward and ask a question? No other questions? Okay, we will then move along. And are there any presentations by parties with an interest? I don't have anyone listed. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the item that we are considering tonight, item 7.1, which is the adoption of the 2026-2027 annual budget. The motion will be broken down, elected members, as follows. The officer recommendations are in 3 parts, and noting a proximity or interest from Councillor Love, a part 1A has been added to allow Councillor Love to participate in the balance of the budget. Councillor Love, would you like to disclose your financial proximity interest, please?
I declare a proximity interest in item 7.1 in relation to project number 15922 as our proposed works on Falcon Drive, and I currently live on an adjoining property. Given this interest, I will leave the meeting when this item is being considered.
Thank you, Councillor Love. You may now leave the meeting. We'll consider that item directly. So, councillors, the item before us that we will be considering as part 1A, that the council adopts project number 15922 Falcon Drive, West Busselton, Hadfield Avenue, Poplar Lane, listed in the capital acquisition and construction budget on page 205 of attachment 2. Do I have a mover for that? Move Councillor McNish. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Dykstra. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? That is carried 8-0. Thank you, councillors. I will now seek, Councillor Love may return to the meeting. declare their interest now. And if I could ask Councillor Ryan to please declare her impartiality interest.
Declare an impartiality interest in item 7.1. Thank you, Councillor Dykstra. As I'm on the committee of the Busselton Football Club at Bovell and the committee of the Senior Citizens Centre, and as a consequence there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider the item solely on its merits and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Director Darby, would you like to read out your proximity interest, please?
I declare a proximity interest in item 7.1 in relation to projects 15956 and 15957, asphalt overlay on Cape Naturalist Road, listed in the capital acquisition and construction budget, as my property is in close proximity to Cape Naturalist Road.
Thank you, Director Darby. Okay, we will now go to the first part, part 1 of item 7.1. As written, can I get a mover for the officer recommendation? Move, Councillor Ryan. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Mueller. Is there any opposition? Given that there is opposition, Councillor Ryan, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Thank you. Yes, I have no opposition to this. 750 formal submissions was pretty epic, and I would like to actually consider in the future proposed differential rates, because I do have an issue, especially since I live in Vass and we pay a differential rate, but I think right at the moment we need to look into the whole issue. So I'm going to support item 1 at this point in time, but I think we need to have a look in further, comprehensively, into differential rates. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Mueller as seconder.
Can I just seek clarification? We're not just voting on item 1 of part 1, are we?
No,
this
we
is
are
the whole,
not.
The whole part.
The whole of part 1, and then we'll vote on part 2 and part 3. Sorry, councillors, in your agendas you will see that the agenda is broken down into parts. So we have part 1, which includes point 1 down to point 13.
Point of order, I was under the assumption that you were going to treat each item individually.
No, I did say at the beginning, Councillor Ryan, that it would be dealt with in parts, and if you look at your agenda, the agenda is in parts. So it has part 1, part 2 and part 3. Part 1 consists of points 1 to 13. Part 2 consists of points, just 1 point, and part 3 consists of 1 point as well.
In that case, I'll be voting completely against. Thank
Well,
you.
you have moved the motion, so we will have to continue. We'll have to continue on.
Point of order.
Sorry, yes, Councillor Kennedy.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I'd like to move a procedural motion that the ruling to move the entire part be withdrawn.
Just give me one moment, please, everybody, while I concur on the validity of that point of order. So, in the standing orders. We'll just check the validity of the point of order first, Councillor Ryan, and then let's see if we need to seek a seconder. Councillor Kennedy, which point of order in the standing orders were you referring to, please?
So 11.9. Oh, okay, yeah.
understanding what he's disagreeing with.
So,
Are you suggesting that you want to move all 13 items singly?
no, just that so the way I understand it was the motion was put, councillor Ryan.
Part 1 of
Part-
the motion of the officer recommendation was put. Councillor Ryan moved it. Councillor Mueller seconded it.
So, yeah, I'm asking that the motion not be put and we re-put it. Because of I feel the interpretation was that it was just item one of that. So just a redo.
I feel like it was I clearly stated that it was to be considered in parts. I'm assuming if you read the agenda, you did understand that the agenda was written in parts. Therefore,
I guess,
Madam Chair, if I might, can I suggest that because of the confusion, the motion be withdrawn? That be recorded in the minutes, that the motion be withdrawn, and we start again.
okay, thank you, Mr. CEO. So just so that we're clear for the gallery, the motion under the standing orders will be withdrawn, and I will re-put the motion to ensure that elected members are clear as to how item 7.1 will be considered. So we have it noted for the minutes that that item has been withdrawn. I will again come back to item 7.1, part 1, and I will ask for a mover for the officer and councillors, elected members. I'm checking that everyone is now clear on what we are considering. I will put item 7.1, part 1, and do I have a mover for that? Moved, Councillor Mueller. Do I have a seconder? Oh, Councillor McNish, are you happy to second? No. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kennedy. Okay, we have a move. And is there opposition? There is opposition. Therefore, Councillor Mueller, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Yep, certainly. So I'm going to support the officer recommendation as it's here. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the significant number of submissions received from our community. 750 formal submissions is a clear indication that people are feeling the pressure of the current cost of living environment. I believe it's important that we have listened to that feedback. The recommendation before us demonstrates that we have. The proposed average rate increase has been reduced from 7 to 6.2%, and the increase for unhosted short-term rental accommodation has been reduced from 15.8 to 14.97. This reduction has not happened by chance. Officers, together with councillors, have worked through the budget to identify opportunities to lessen the burden on our ratepayers while still delivering a responsible and balanced budget and delivering the things that the community has said that they want and need. Part of that has been achieved by making use of well-managed reserves and surplus funds where it is appropriate to do so. Those reserves exist for a purpose, and where there is capacity to use them responsibly to provide some relief to our community, I believe that that is the right approach. I also think it's important to recognise that what our community receives in return. The City of Busselton consistently delivers a very high standard of infrastructure and services, whether it's our roads, parks, sporting facilities, libraries, beaches, playgrounds, foreshore, emergency management, or the many community programs we provide. These are the things that make our district such a fantastic place to live. They don't happen by accident. They require ongoing investment and careful financial management. As councillors, our responsibility isn't just to balance this year's budget, it's to ensure that we leave the city in a stronger position for the next generation. We need to continue investing wisely so that our children and grandchildren inherit the same, or an even better quality of life that we enjoy today. That means maintaining the assets we already have, planning for future growth, and making decisions that are financially responsible over the long term. No one likes increasing rates, and I certainly understand the concerns expressed by our community. However, I believe this recommendation strikes a fair balance between acknowledging those concerns and ensuring that the city remains financially sustainable.
Thank you, Councillor Mueller. Councillor Kennedy, as seconder, would you wish to speak?
I will reserve my right.
Thank you. As an opposing person, I will rise to speak against this motion, and I would like to foreshadow an alternative recommendation for a rate increase of 5.9% from 6.2%. Councillors, we have heard from residents and ratepayers, 750, which I believe is a record number of submissions. Nearly all of them asking for rates to be lowered. There is an undeniable cost of living pressure. Many households are already stretched by mortgage, rent, energy and food costs. Even a 6.2% increase lands hardest on fixed income residents, pensioners and those on tight budgets. A 5.9% increase still delivers the revenue we need to maintain our core service levels and progress our capital works program. And I am simply suggesting that we ask our community to shoulder a bit less of the burden for the 26-27 financial year. Therefore, should this officer recommendation not succeed, I'll be foreshadowing the alternative to go to a lower percentage of 5.9%. Thank you. Do I have a speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor McNish.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I speak against. I think, and this is quite a long explanation, 7% was the preferred position in the long-term financial plan for the council for months and months. And then last week it went to 6.2 and now here it could go to 5.9. Well, to me, the difference between a 7% and a 6.2%, a 0.8% on the average residential rate is 35 cents for the week. That's it. So I'm not into months and months worth of work and upending that with bits and pieces, you know, I sort of call it rats and mice, really for just a 0.8 or to take it down to 5.9 because, you know, some people have comfort with a number of fives in front of it. But I want structural adjustment that's going to cause and deliver long-term, at least for the life of the long-term financial plan, savings of $10 million. And I'm going to foreshadow how to do that. And if Liam can put that foreshadowed motion up. So 7% be adhered to because that needs the money to allow the new CEO to do some restructuring. I'm saying the jetty surplus reserve money that we found, the extra 400K gets split into being able to give the CEO new abilities to explore the implementation of AI into efficiencies in the business. Saltwater needs to be absolutely managed super tightly, and so it needs a new reserve specifically. I'm going to, and a loan for the work that needs to be done for the increased cost needs to be quarantined, so a new loan, and that's the interest payments on the new loan in Part 2C. At Part 2D, we comply with the previous position of putting the end of financial year surplus into the Sport and Rec Reserve, which it was designed for. And Part 3 is how you deliver $1.5 million a year for 10 years and thereafter, with a net present value of saving of the life of the long-term financial plan of $10 million. And if you take it over the life of 50-year life of the engineering building of the saltwater, for example, when we're doing net present value calculations, is $20 million. So no sugar hit of 5 cents a day, but a saving of $10 million embedded in the life of the long-term financial plan that the council will be considering next year, the year after, the year after, the year after. Because if you don't change your spending, in the rates that you get a little bit of a discount today, you just have to increase the rates next year. So this is structural reform. And even the Reserve Bank governor says to decrease costs, we need to decrease spending. And we are looking at our spending in this organisation. We have to, for the longer term. I think that's been very clear in the community, the public submissions that have come through. The continued 7%, 7%, and they're looking at that thinking, no, this can't go on without a refinement of what's going on with spending. So there has been some examinations, initial examinations, and I can look at open space. There's $11 or $12 million worth of expenditure goes into that. So that's where I'm proposing to get 640. The facilities management, we've heard that our facilities are rather cheap in comparison to elsewhere in the state. So if we could decrease a bit of cost or increase some of the attendance and the utilisation of leased and fee-paying facilities, there's your 60 grand. The transport network service with fleet and plant users, there's another 12 or $13 million worth of expenditure there annually. So 550 is, I would think, very findable in that. And then the arts and culture and service, heritage service, if you're going to, I've chosen 250 out of that, not including saltwater, because saltwater has to be resourced to try and ease its financial loss. When you put in a project into a service that has a project value of $100 million, over $100 million, then that demands you look at what else is going on in that service to offset such a massive increase in the expenditure of that service. Surely. So those areas are, in my experience, relatively pretty well achievable and gives the new CEO the target figure to work for. They're target figures. So I just reinforce in closing, not a $20 or $30 if it goes down to 5.9 or $18 is actually the sugar hit, the short-term sugar hit for 1 year, one hit only. No, structural reform, $10 million in the long-term financial plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor McNish. Do I have a speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Love.
I was originally just going to foreshadow an amendment, but depending on if the foreshadowed alternatives get through, I will have to do this a few times, so bear with me. Honestly, I find it distasteful that we have constituents sending in submissions with such vulnerable, raw honesty about how little their own incomes have increased over the last annual year, while facing rising costs on every front. Some have already resorted to selling off assets just to get by, and yet here we are proposing in part 13 of this item to increase our own sitting fees and the Mayor's allowance by 3.5%. And so this is why I am proposing an amendment to point 13 of the officer's recommendation, part 1, to maintain elected members' fees and allowances at current levels as follows. A, councillor annual sitting fees at $35,480. Mayor annual sitting fee, $53,215. Deputy Mayor's annual allowance, $25,128, as written on the screen. Thank you, governance team, for that. And amending point 6 of the officer's recommendation, part 1, to add to the end and subject to the CEO making any changes required to the budget, including the notes to and forming part of the budget to affect the changes to elected member fees and allowances. In all my time being on council, I've never seen the gallery this full for an annual budget.
So, Councillor Love, you're moving this amendment on the screen. Do you want to see if you have a seconder for the amendment on the screen?
Well,
Councillor Mueller, you have a seconder. So you wish to continue speaking to the amendment, please. So, councillors, just to be sure, we are now considering the officer recommendation with the inclusion of the amendment.
thank you for seconding this.
Just the amendment.
As I was saying, in all my time of being on council, this is the largest attendance that I've seen by the gallery, which I think is reflective of just the pressures that people are facing within our community. They are feeling this pressure. And one submission in particular struck out to me within that 750 submissions. and that was on page 22. I'm going to paraphrase and quote from it. Our latest pension increase was 1.88%, giving us an increase of $16.70 each per fortnight, or $434.20 each per year. That's the entire increase this person has to absorb every cost pressure for the year. By comparison, if their rural rate charges increase by 7% this year, they'll pay at least $257.09 more. And once that rate increase alone is factored in, they'll only have $177.11 left to cover all of their other expected increases for the year. As we heard, increases are going up. Insurance, utilities, everything is going up. Fuel. Set against that $434.2 a councillor's increase of the 3.5% equates to $1,241. I'm rounding up now, which is nearly 3 times this pensioner's entire annual increase. A deputy mayor's increase is of $2,121, which is nearly 5 times the pensioner's increase. And the mayor's increase of $5,380 is over 12 times it. I want to be clear that this isn't about the dollar figure we'll save in the budget or about reducing rates. As we'll hear, we're going to have debates on those points potentially coming up. Any additional savings here would therefore get absorbed into municipal funds, which if we end up running a surplus, ultimately those funds go towards saving for future sport and recreational facilities that half of our community tells us they desperately need, while the other half of the people like this pensioner, potentially won't ever be able to use them. Not because of their age, but simply because they won't have the funds for that kind of discretionary spending. So the real question isn't how much would this save us? It's about how do we look our constituents in the eye, people who have been brave enough to openly admit how much of a struggle it's been to keep up with the costs, and tell them that on top of everything else, they're now paying for us to receive a 3.5 pay rise. At minimum, an additional $1,241 per elected member, at maximum, an additional $5,380. How can we, in good conscience, do that?
Thank you. Councillor Miller, as a seconder, would you wish to speak? And just to clarify, councillors, we are just considering this amendment. I apologise, we're not considering the entire officer recommendation.
Yeah, I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Do I have a speaker for the amendment? Councillor Adams.
Thank you. I commend you, Councillor Love, because if any of us councillors here that do require the raise, it is going to be a single mum. So I commend you on the fact that you have spoken very passionately and very, very informatively too. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I just think it's something that we could do to show that we are human. We're not just here as a voting on everything. And I personally, I can only speak for myself, not as a councillor, but I don't need the money. So I'm quite happy to not have the rate rise. But I'm speaking for us not to have the rate rise, but I also realise that some councillors here are giving up paid work to be here. So they're actually reducing their own income to be here. So that's the flip side, but I'm voting for Councillor Love's amendment. That is awesome. Thank you.
Speaker against? Councillor McNish.
I speak against because what a bad signal this sends to people who want to be an aspiring member of this council, which we have to encourage. 3.5% increase is below inflation, below the staff increase, set by an independent body. So I don't see the issue in taking less than everyone else is taking, because it is less. In real terms, because inflation's running at above 3.5, it's a real decrease. So, I mean, divide 35,480 by 365 days. Let's knock off a few days for Christmas and Easter, and it's about $90 a day. I'm telling you, to pay these people $90 a day when they're going without and losing, not attending the sports carnivals and all the whole things with kids and grandchildren, I'll tell you, that's, I'm not going to use the word insulted, but I'm really passionate about that. It is a bad signal, and I'll absolutely be speaking and voting against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNish. Is there a speaker for?
Can I ask a question, please?
Councillor Ryan.
Through to the CEO, this is a recommendation by the SAT. What weight does a recommendation from a councillor have on all the other councillors? It's a bit like saying that the government's going to give us an increase, but a certain group of people aren't going to get it because of some particular thing. What's the
point of clarification?
Yes.
Thank you. The situation is SAT determines the maximum that can be paid to an elected member, be that the mayor, deputy mayor, or an individual councillor. It's then determined by the council what level of remuneration they then apply. So it's within the province of the council to make the decision.
Thank you. Quiet in the gallery, please. Do I have a speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Mueller, you...
No, I'm going to
oh, sorry, Councillor Ryan.
me?
Oh, sorry, yes. Councillor Kennedy.
Great, thank you. First, they came for our butter chicken, and now they're coming for our allowances. So in my working career, I've never asked for a pay cut. So I'll be speaking against this. Now, most of this argument's based on a worst case scenario resident, but the number one theme of the submissions was to reduce rates, and this doesn't even achieve that. Sure, there may be some at the surplus of 26, 27, but this isn't reducing rates. Personally, I feel I've obtained more experience since my time on council and acquired a few new skills, and I'll leave that for you to rebuttal. Collectively, as a council, we've got 3 new, very keen councillors who have been doing great work, and that's not to say anything bad about the previous councillors. So we're moving forward, and this doesn't really incentivise councillors at all. I mean, we're here to do a great work. We're here to represent the community and...
Quiet in the gallery, please.
...be a voice for them. How is this incentivising others to come on board? And as Councillor mentioned, we want this to be an equitable position so that those less financial have the opportunity to represent on council. So considering this really doesn't achieve anything tangible other than maybe put some surplus at the end of next year, I would encourage you not to vote for this one. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Do I have speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Ryan.
I'll speak against too. It's a little bit insulting because it's only $35,480, but I've got to tell you, I work full-time at this job. Full-time and the rest. Thank you. You wouldn't have a clue.
Please show the elected members some respect and allow them to speak. Thank you.
I've got, I would love to be able to really debate every item on this agenda today because there are cost savings that I can see would be significant. This is simply, and quite frankly, it is insulting that we only get the minor rise that we do. I understand that there's pensioners and people out there as well that are struggling. I do. Hence why I would love to be able to speak individually on each item and how we could also do some cost savings. I agree that 5.9% is a good starting point. It's still not enough as far as I'm concerned. I agree that CPI or Walga's CPI or whatever figure that we're dealing with should be taken into consideration. This is just a token. I think it's show pony stuff, actually, but I will be voting against. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Do I have a speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Mueller, you reserved your right.
Yeah, look, it's a good point that Councillor Adams raised, in that some of us here, including myself, have taken a not insignificant pay cut to come and join council. Secondly, I used my own money along with Councillor Adams the other day to buy coffees for the community, so taking a hit there. And to be honest, the amount of crap that I have to put up with on Facebook alone is probably worth more than $1,000. Get caught a criminal, all sorts of other things by people that have never even looked me in the eye. Having said that, if this is something that makes the community realise that we are here to try and represent them, to meet them, to let them know that we have heard them and that we understand their concerns, I'm willing to, you know, I use this money to put food on my table, and I'm willing to forego that extra $1,000 as a olive branch and a sign of solidarity to the community. Whether it works or not, well, we'll wait and see. But yeah, I'm happy to support Councillor Love on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Mueller. Your right of reply, Councillor Love.
All right, there were some really great points there. I thought that there might be the motion that brought up about the workload point, and I agree. It is a real burden sometimes on people that are having to actually juggle an additional job on top of this to put money on their table. As mentioned prior, I am a single mother. I know this quite closely. And the work we do isn't necessarily paid in line with the actual workload the role requires. I genuinely agree. It affects people's ability to hold down full-time work or to earn a wage that reflects what we put in, particularly for those of us not relying and receiving on the Mayor's allowance. I myself had to step back from full-time work.
Rebuttal, please, Councillor Love, rebuttal.
There was the workload comment, and about, I'm going to get to it. So
Okay, just make sure you stick to rebuttal.
I am. I had to step back from full-time work myself when I was first elected 4 years ago, which is why I've hesitated to bring this proposal forward in prior years, as I know the workload and the allowance that comes with it are already a deterrent for many good potential candidates. But let's be honest, whether it's $35,000 or $36,000, it is not an attractive figure for people that are wanting to chase the money and a career position in a corporate world, or even FIFO jobs, whatever it may be. And it especially isn't attractive to younger people who haven't yet had the time to build the financial stability that others may have had the chance to. But knowing all of that, I still cannot, in good conscience, sit by for a fourth year running and vote through another pay increase, not this year, against this backdrop. And I want to address a comment from Councillor Kennedy. I'm not asking for us to take a pay cut. We're staying on the same wage. It's simply just not increasing it. And so with that, once again, that's the question I keep coming back to. How do we justify asking people who've told us in their own words, and sorry, maybe this does strike a chord in my heart, having been raised by a single mother herself who struggled to manage her budgets and financing. So it's not show poniness, it's having empathy. Yes, how do we justify asking people who've told us in their own words how hard it's already gotten to now help fund a pay increase for us, to help cover an additional $1,241 to $5,380, depending on your role, towards our own incomes? I don't see how that's something we can defend in good conscience. And I did not see once in those submissions that people were saying, hey, don't think the councillors get paid enough. I implore you all to vote in support of my motion. Thank you.
Just before we proceed, thank you, Councillor Love. There is a gentleman at the back recording the meeting. Oh, you just have your phone up, that's all. So it looked like you were recording. So I did just ask if you couldn't do that, but I appreciate if that's not what you're doing. Councillor McNish.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a question. I just would need to clarify some of the statement that I just heard. If the inflation is running at 4% and local government cost index is running at higher than 4%, and the SAT has issued an increase ability of 3.5, and we're going lower than that, then that is way lower than inflation. So that is a real pay cut. So
Sorry, we're not debating.
Councillor Kennedy is quite right.
Thank you. Debate has closed. I will now put the motion. All those in favour of the amendment to the officer recommendation? That's for and against. Okay. We need an absolute majority or casting vote? No. Okay, I have the casting vote in this instance, therefore I will be voting against. So therefore the amendment is lost. It was 4-4. Oh, sorry. It was Councillor McNish, myself, Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Ryan against. Councillor Adams, Councillor Dykstra. Yep. Okay, thank you, councillors. We will now return to the officer recommendation, part 1. We are up to speakers 4. Do we have, I will rise to speak. Oh no, actually I've already risen to speak. Do we have any speakers against? Okay, therefore I will put the motion. Have you spoken already against the substantive? No. You may speak against, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. As I said before, there's a number of issues that I would like to have raised singularly. I'll try and endeavour to do that now because of just quickly. So I'm against number 5, particularly because it says with an annual budget transfer of 961,988 for the opening surplus to the new Sport and Rec. Not against that. Sorry, not against that. But the 1,296 and 82 going to the completion of saltwater, it needs to be a loan. These people need to understand exactly what that development has cost and how much it's going to cost in the future.
Quiet in the gallery, please. Let the councillor speak.
I stood here a few meetings ago and said that it was up to $70 million now and rising. I think the community deserves to understand why the rates are going up. No, I wouldn't be voting for point 6. No, I won't be voting for point 7. Now, this one's really interesting. So we're telling people who are really on the bones of their bums that they can pay by instalments, but it's going to cost you another 5.5% to pay for that. I find that quite insulting. That's the bit to me that's insulting. Number 8, the same thing. Number 9, no. Number 10, well, I can't vote for that because it talks about easy instalments again. I'll just go back to the number, bear with me. I like the one where we're giving the money back to those businesses that have funded the BDEMP. And I think any leftover is fantastic. If there's anybody really hurting in this community, it's business, it's red tape, and it's not just by us. But in closing, I also want to talk about cost shifting. Now, last week I asked the CEO if he would put together a report about cost shifting that is happening to local government. I attended the Regional Roads Group meeting on Monday, and we've been handed over from main roads that we've got now bridges to maintain, because main roads couldn't get the staff and really they can't get the funding. So we're going to hand it over to local government, and then the government can turn around and tell local councils how useless they are because they can't manage their money. So when you've got the government and people in their own households understand the cost of living has gone up. Why has it gone up? It's gone up because the cost of electricity is absolutely gone through the roof. We get the same bills. So you get an increase, community, we get an increase that we have to pass on. So all these things, if you think about, they are added into our budgets for us to be able to balance them and try and give the community what they want. So I want to express to the community that quite a bit of this money in this budget...
Councillor Ryan, can you wrap it up, please? ...is due to cost shifting. And I will make that clear time and again, that cost shifting is really important. I need you to understand it's important, but also I know that Councillor McNish and I have been calling for perhaps staff reorganisation and being able to Councillor Ryan, you're out of time
as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Speakers for?
Point of order. May I just have the... Can I have the next foreshadowed motion?
The foreshadowed alternative?
Yeah, be
The
displayed.
next foreshadowed alternative will be the 5.9% rate.
Okay, so it's just a percentage change there.
From 6.2 to 5.9.
Will that have an adjusted 0.5?
It will have an adjustment.
In that one? Can I view
Yes.
that before I reserve my right? I utilise that?
You'll just need to adjust the numbering. The automatic numbering's defaulted. So if you go here, that is 5, not 7. So if you just go from, yep, right click, yep, restart at 5, yep.
It's the same. It's the same? Yeah.
The intent, councillor, would be that to fund it, it would come from the BDEMP, from the Jetty Insurance Fund, and then the balance would be funded from a small percentage of the additional 1% of the Sport and Rec.
Just trying to work out where that says that. What? Bottom of the screen.
And subject to the CEO reducing the transfer to the new Sport and Recreation Reserve of approximately $150,000. Okay, while you have a look at that, Councillor Kennedy, I'm going to go back to Councillor Mueller. You reserved your right to speak. Oh, sorry. Councillor Kennedy, you reserved your right. Do you wish to speak?
I will speak. You have a question?
Yes, I want a clarification through the chair. So we're voting on at this stage, because I apologise, I'm only new to this. This is my first budget.
We are voting on the officer recommendation of
6.2.
Yes.
So that's all we're voting on.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Kennedy, you have the right to speak.
I've reserved my right, and now I'm seeing the the foreshadowed motion to go to 5.9%, I'll be speaking against the 6.2 substantive motion. So the only thing I probably need to address there is that I feel the new information was 750 submissions, and that is substantially more than any budget that I've been through. And from those workshops, we came at a figure of 7%, but now with the submissions, I feel we do need to reduce that. Seeing where the money's coming from, we're not directing so much to sport and rec. We're already rating a 3% extra for sport and rec. So I believe to claw that back a little is reasonable. And that's how we're going to do it, to reduce the rates. Just maybe one thing that was mentioned in against this substantive motion was the financial hardship relief is available for those that can't afford that percentage increase. So we need to consider that in the budget. And that's about it, councillors. So I would encourage you to vote against this one and let the next foreshadowed come up.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Muley, you have your right of reply.
Yeah, look, we've spent many, many hours, as has been mentioned, going through this item by item. I think there's 5 or 6 workshops now of, some significant time spent in here, as well as outside of here trying to figure this through. So I won't spend too much time trying to change people's minds. I might just, if people are foreshadowing this...
Just make sure you're rebutting.
Yeah, sure, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Muir.
All right, I can't figure out a way to put that into a rebuttal. So, yeah, I've got nothing to add.
Okay, councillors, I will now put the motion. All those in favour? That's Councillor Mueller and Councillor Dykstra. Against? And that's 6 against. Councillor Love, Deputy Mayor Cox, Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Adams and Councillor Ryan. The motion is lost. Oh, sorry, and Councillor McNish, my apologies. My eyesight is not the best. Okay, we will now, if we can now bring up the foreshadowed alternative, which I will move, stand to move.
Sorry, just a point of clarification if I can, because we can't look at all of this at one time on the screen here. Is it just the 5.9 that is proposed to change? And is that the only thing that's changed?
It is, Councillor Mueller, essentially from 6.2 to 5.9 and how that is funded. How the discrepancy between the 6.2 and the 5, the lowering to the 5.9, that additional a bit of funding to bring it down to that level, which will be taken from proposing to be taken from the 1%, additional 1% going to sport and rec. So it's a very small amount. There will still be an additional percentage going to sport and rec.
So which point is that? Just so I can make sure that I read that section properly. 0.5?
Points 4 and 5.
Through the chair, the differences are in 0.4 and 0.6. 0.4 is making additional use of the BDEMP reserve for those categories, commercial, industrial and holiday home. And in 0.6, transferring less to the sport and rec reserve. So 0.4 and 0.6 are where you've got your changes.
Could we please just have a minute to read 0.6?
Well, you can read through while I move the motion. So I would like to move the foreshadowed alternative, please, councillors, to drop the budget from 6.2 in increase to 5.9. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Adams. Thank you, Councillor Adams. I will now speak to the alternative. I've already spoken about my reasoning earlier this evening, so I'll keep it very brief. I believe that lowering the rate a bit further will assist our community in some way, and I believe that taking that an additional amount, just a very small amount from the Sport and Rec, we have 2% going into Sport and Rec currently. The proposal was to have an additional 1%, so 3% in total going to Sport and Rec, and I believe just taking a small amount from that 1% to fund an additional rate reduction is warranted given the number of submissions that we've had and given that we know how the community are feeling with the current cost of living crisis. Thank you. Councillor Adams, do you wish to speak as seconder?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a meeting on Sunday and we had a great turnout, and I don't change my view. I think we, as a city, we need 7, but I'm quite happy to vote 5.9 because 750 submissions is unheard of. I think 90 is unheard of, so to have 750, and I think we did all our modelling without those submissions, and like it or not, I do think they make a difference. I think we've actually got to show the community that we are listening to a certain point, but they've also got to realise that I temper my 5.9 with there's going to be hurt somewhere, some down the track at 5.9. We've got to reduce things, and I think we've got an exciting bunch of councillors here. No disrespect to that. I think the last lot were all right and under pressure with salt water. We've still got that, but now salt water is to the tune whether you like it or not. It is in the finishing stages, and hopefully we can see some reasonable return from that. Just losing my train of thought there. Apologies, this is all new to me. So I'm excited for where we're heading, and I think 5.9 will show the community that we do care, and hopefully we can make this work. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Do I have a speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Mueller.
Yeah, this 5.9 number seems to have sort of come out of nowhere a little bit. I know it was mentioned last week, but like I said, we spent ages going through this, and at no point did that number 5.9 appear. So I don't know...
Sorry, I just will interrupt you there, Councillor Mueller. The 5.9 was actually in the agenda. It was written in the item at the bottom as an alternative, so it was costed.
Yeah, I understand that. What I'm referring to is prior to the publishing of Friday's agenda during the workshops, that the, going through everything line by line by line by line, because that's what we did. We didn't just pluck a number out of thin air. We went through it.
Point of order. Yes, we did discuss the 5.9, 5.9, 6.2 and 7.
Sorry, did you actually have a point of order, Councillor Ryan?
I just wanted to clarify that...
I know, but you interrupted. You need to actually have a legitimate point of order to interrupt Councillor Mueller's...
It was incorrect information.
Sorry. Councillor Mueller, you may...
allow me to clarify. Prior to last Wednesday, I'm pretty sure I did say this, but prior to last Wednesday, the number 5.9 had not been mentioned, right? And that number 5.9 came about following discussions, following the 750 submissions. That's the first time that number came in. So to go back to the process we went through, we had the workshops, we went through item by item, we looked at what the community have asked for, what the community have needed, what the markets survey, or whichever it was, the catalysed survey from years ago, said were the community's priorities, and the long-term financial plan and a whole range of other things that was sort of already set in motion. And to fund those, 7% was the number. So since then, and the things we've had, we've got the community feedback, and we've tried to figure out and adjust it. I might just say this, normally in situations like this, in my experience, there's always going to be, when there's a winner, there's a loser. There's a bit of an interesting situation here where the very people that stand to gain from a reduction in rates also stand to lose, because they're going to miss out on something, right? Now, that might be okay with them, but it's important that I think that's said. I just realised that with this alternate, there is an additional loser here, and that additional loser is sport and rec, which is the number one thing that this community has prioritised. So worth thinking about before we go, taking money away from that area, I would suggest, in order to reduce the rates. I still think 6.2 is a number, but I don't think 5.9 is it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mueller. Do I have a speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor McNish.
Thank you, Madam. I agree entirely with Councillor Mueller. Months and months at 7%, and then to see it change on Friday and then change again tonight. Nothing's not strategic about that. Seriously, that's just a sugar hit. It really is. And the sport and rec increase in costs is the number one, that's right. Sport and rec increase in costs since the reserve fund was set up to find or save 38 million. What are we into now for sport and rec? 150? Yeah. So that's why sport and rec needs, with a decision pending on a tender coming back for a pavilion, that sport and rec needs the money. Simple as that. So well done, Councillor Mueller. And lowering rates by %, well, whatever, 1.1 or something, this year means jacking the rates 1.1% next year, if no changes to spending. That's why I say, you want to pay less rates? I digress. The Local Government Act instructs the council to cast a rate and a dollar, to raise the money, to pay the bill. What's the bill? The bill is what the council has determined it wants to spend, less the fees and charges and grants. Whatever's left over needs to be funded from rates. So it casts its rate and a dollar and funds it from rates. All dependent on what it wants to spend. You want to reduce rates? You reduce spending. It's that simple. So I'm proposing, in my foreshadowed motion, to do just that. Reduce spending. Not just a sugar hit for 1 year. Sustainably reducing spending by $1.5 million a year. Over the 10 years of the life of the long-term financial plan, is $10 million. So I'd really like to hear some comment in supporting that, rather than trying to take $1,000 off all the hours I put in during the week on my sitting fee and have a real pay decrease. Thank you very much. So let's hear some discussion about $10 million worth of sustainable savings, which is absolutely achievable. And I can tell you from my experience as the CEO here, it's achievable. So just to round out the comment from Councillor Adams, they'll be hurt down the track. You're right. You're right. Councillor Mueller, you're right. 7% is needed. If you don't identify what's not going to be spent, they'll be hurt down the track. Okay, good. We're getting there. Let's save this $20 sugar hit and start concentrating on good strategic governance, structural reform, reducing the spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNish. Speaker for? Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you. I'll be speaking for, mainly because of the sport and rec. So last year, 2% of the rates went towards the sport and rec fund. This year, 3% is going to the sport and rec fund. Now, we've had 750 submissions. That is a metric. And it's something we need to use, input, into our workshops. And from that, we've come back with a revised rating. So I think all of the amendments match that. They say we've gone too far with sport and rec. 750 people are willing to write in to say this is too much. How much are we going to push that before the pitchforks come out? Now, we mentioned hurt. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be hurt down the track. It's mainly sport and rec we're talking about. people, we're just going to have to slow down. Maybe we can't achieve these things within the time frame because the reality's changed, cost goes up. Councillor Mueller, you did mention you wondering where the 5.9% option came from. Well, I'd be more concerned with the solution for this sugar hit, which is the next foreshadowed alternative, because, I mean, I did not get the chance to read that and I don't know what's going on in there, but I'd be more concerned of that one over this 5.9%. So I'd be encouraging you, councillors, to vote for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. I have a speaker against. Speaker for, Councillor Ryan.
I'm actually against. Not because I don't want the 5.9, I do. But there are still some unpalatable items in the amendment. Number 5 being one of them. It seems to be that the saltwater is just a sinkhole for more money going in there. The biggest want of our community is sport and rec, but they can't get the money to progress what we need. Community voices say with increasing demand for facilities, the community would like a new district sport and recreation facility with a 50-metre pool, indoor courts and gym facilities, along with upgrades to existing sporting facilities, reserves and ancillary infrastructure. I see some sporting people in the room tonight. But no, we're not going to borrow any more. We're just going to raid the reserves again, and sport and rec will be the target. And so I'm sorry, I can't support the 5.9, but I also have to say, Councillor McNish, that I applaud your ability to be able to look at the cost savings that we can do for next year. I'd like to see 5.9 this year, although I cannot vote for this alternate because, as I said, of all the unpalatable things. I would like to see us sit down early, before the next budget, and we're bombarded with all the information, that we actually find those cost savings so that our financial plan can change and that we don't give these people in future the cost shocks that they're getting right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. If there are no other speakers, I'll rise with my right of reply. Oh, sorry, Councillor Love. You wish to speak for?
No, in opposition as well. Just
Speak again.
it's a bit hard because I'm only able to read parts that are obviously on here and where you weren't given the ability to look over either one of those foreshadowed alternatives prior to this meeting, so it does make it difficult. But I can only base my argument and assumptions off of the alternative written within this item 7.1, alternative 2, of reducing the rate increases to 5.9. I am wondering, and I may be wrong, and this is the main reason I am opposing this, is that I notice in the alternative there is the proposal to reduce transfers to the corporate IT systems reserve equal to 50% of the balance of funding required. Personally, I'm not comfortable.
Sorry, Councillor Love, that's not correct.
Like I said, it's difficult to base.
It's on the screen.
Yeah, but there's also point. Is there not another point that?
Through the chair, and obviously this is Councillor Cox's alternative. Councillor Cox has put an alternative that is a fresh alternative. That alternative is to have an average of 5.9% for all rating categories other than Ustra, which is, I can't remember the percent, by using, so the details of how that's being achieved are in point 4 of this alternative on your screen and in point 6. In point 4, it's utilising funding from the BDEMP, or Events Marketing and Business Development Reserve, to provide rate relief to those particular rate categories. It's using funding from the Busselton Jetty Self-Insurance Reserve to provide rate relief to the remainder of the categories, and taking the remaining balance from the Sport and Rec Reserve, which is approximately $150,000. So Councillor Cox's alternative does not follow the option in the report. It is different. So it is those three funding sources.
Like I said, it is difficult to actually wrap your head around these alternatives given the limited amount of time you get to read these, especially when they're such big motions. I'll withdraw my comment. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Dykstra, you would like to speak for?
Can I just ask a question?
Point of
If this
clarification.
alternative motion fail, are we going to back to the first motion?
We will then go to Councillor McNish's foreshadowed alternative. Thank you, councillors. I will just rise to have my right of reply. The argument that councillors haven't been aware of this, I understand from Councillor Love's point of view because she's actually been away for the last, was away last week. And
Point
has
of
been
order.
Yes, Councillor Love, I'm just, if you allow me to finish, it's because it was discussed in the workshop last week that you did not attend. So 5.9 was raised and Councillor Mueller also acknowledged that he hadn't heard 5.9
Point of
raised.
order, still.
Yes, what's your point of order, Councillor Love?
Personal statement.
Sorry?
Personal statement. Personal explanation.
So what part of the standing orders are you referring to?
I don't have them on my hand. I know that there is standing orders that allow for you to call a point of order for personal explanation though, because I've had it done to me numerous times.
I'll withdraw the comment.
Thank you.
So Councillor Mueller mentioned, and I'm rebutting because he mentioned in his debate that he hadn't heard 5.9 being modelled before. 5.9 was raised last week when we were discussing varying models to be various numbers to be modelled by the staff, which is why it was included in the officer report as an alternative. There were a couple of other numbers that were mentioned as well.
Personal explanation. I did say specifically that it wasn't discussed until last Wednesday.
Right, okay, thank you. I'll withdraw the comment then. But the way I heard it in debate was that you hadn't heard 5.9 mentioned until it was written in the officer comment, but I obviously heard incorrectly. The amount of money to be taken from Sport and Rec, I understand Councillor Ryan mentioned that Sport and Rec is the biggest want of the community, which might be the case, but I think a bigger want at the moment from the community is that rates go down from 7%, as low as we can possibly get them without impacting services or impacting anything else in the organisation. Therefore, my suggestion is that $150,000, which is additionally the 1% going into Sport and Rec, that we take $150,000 from that 1% to push the rates down slightly, which means that $600,000 in addition to the other 2% already going to Sport and Rec is still going to Sport and Rec. So we hear the community that Sport and Rec is important. However, I believe that it is more important for the community to bring rates down. Every little bit counts. So therefore, councillors, I would urge you to support my alternative to bring the rate down from 6.2 to 5.9, funded from what we see on the screen. Thank you. I will now close debate and put the motion. All those in favour of the alternate recommendation? Councillor Dykstra, Councillor Adams, Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Cox. Against? Councillor McNish, Councillor Love, Councillor Mueller and Councillor Ryan. No. So we have not achieved an absolute majority. So we will have to...
Councillors, Madam Chair and councillors, we are getting close to the set time for the council meeting, which is 5:30. I'm going to suggest that we adjourn this meeting, and if you so choose, we can proceed with the council meeting at 5:30, or alternatively, we can open the council meeting and adjourn it to allow this meeting to be completed. That's the two options that I would put before you.
Point of order.
Councillor McNish.
The vote was taken and it was 4-4. Are you going to choose to cast a deciding vote or not?
No, because we require an absolute majority, Councillor McNish.
Yeah, okay. So let's let the record show how you voted.
Yes.
And that, because you're required, I believe, to have casting vote if you so choose. And if you, then the minutes will show that you chose not to. But then the correct unachievement of the absolute majority will be formalised.
Thank you, Councillor McNish. I will therefore cast the casting vote will be in favour of the alternate recommendation. We will now go to a vote to adjourn this meeting. So can I have a mover to adjourn the current meeting? Until 5:30, where we will open. We just might need a few minutes to discuss the alternative.
If I might, the risk, if I can advise the council, if you don't open and close the meeting, eventually we run into a count-out process for the council meeting.
Okay, so we will need to adjourn this meeting, and then we will go and...
If you think you can do this within half an hour, I'm just concerned this has taken 30-odd minutes more than was originally anticipated.
And we still have...
the conversations, it is pretty clear you've got more than one alternate that's probably on foot, and based on the time you've taken at this point, it's going to take more than half an hour.
Sorry, if I can just seek some clarification. Did the budget just pass?
No.
No.
Because we require we need a minimum of 5 councillors in favour for it to pass. Therefore, I will ask for a mover to adjourn this meeting. Move Councillor Mueller, seconded Councillor Adams, and we will adjourn until 5:45. Thank you, councillors. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously.
I'm not sure where to go on.